So anyway, look over your grades today. We're only a couple weeks away from the end of the quarter, so it's always a good idea to kind of take inventory and make sure your percentage is where it's supposed to be and that all assignments have been done and turned in the way they need to be. So again, please make sure that you do that at some point today. That's all I'm going to say about the grades at this point. All right, so I am going to share my screen here. As soon as I get Mr. Perez in, there we go. All right. So you will notice this week for February 24th through March 2nd, obviously there were some Zoom materials here. There's a weekly checklist of assignments that's been posted. There's a weekly review video as usual. And there's a campaign, presidential campaign project. That's going to be how we finish off third quarter. Okay. And I'm going to get to that all here in a second. But today, what I want to do is get started on kind of wrapping up the judicial branch component by talking about how Supreme Court cases come into being. All right. So the easiest way that I can do that in the modern day is to talk about how gay marriage became the law of the land, that the legalization of gay marriage back in 2015. How did that come into being? All right. So how did the Supreme Court decide the legality of it? And again, so far you've, through the unit, kind of looked at different landmark cases. For the most part, you've looked at federal cases where they're talking about, is it a national decision, a state decision? So this is right in line with what you've been talking about in all those court cases and the decision that the Supreme Court makes at the federal level, whether it be on campaign finance reform or the rights of the accused, whatever the case may be. Now, the gay marriage argument started off because it was left to the states. This was considered a state level decision. All right. So the state of gay marriage, as it was known at the time, how it basically stood as a right or whatever else during that time period. The state of gay marriage, where gay marriage was legal and illegal, you can see kind of the different statuses that gay marriage was in. The solid blue states, these were the states where gay marriage was legal. Gay marriage was legal in all places: Iowa, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and New York. Okay, so right before the gay marriage argument in front of the Supreme Court, gay marriage was not necessarily legal across the board by any stretch. It was in small little pockets here and there. Some of the states eventually allowed gay marriage through acts of their legislature. So California, Washington, places like that. Gay marriage, however, was illegal in most of the states of the United States. If you look at the solid red ones, those were where gay marriage was banned by state or constitutional amendment. Okay. And in Ohio, we were a constitutional amendment. We literally wrote it into our state constitution that marriage was between a man and a woman. And that was done through a vote in 2004. So instead of our state legislature figuring it out, instead of the state assembly coming in and doing it, they basically kicked it out to the voters, and the voters decided it. So we literally put it into our constitution for the state of Ohio, and we weren't the only ones. All these solid red states, it was considered illegal. Okay. The lighter kind of pink states, if you will, the legislature or the ballot measure could ban gay marriage in 2012. So this is literally a few years before gay marriage came up. This is the status of the state by state, mentality. And this is how, typically constitutional amendments come along at the national level. This is kind of how the map would have looked when it came down to, let's say, women's right to vote back in the early 1900s. Some of these Western states would have said yes, but the Eastern states would have said no. So sometimes it takes a constitutional amendment, which is what a lot of gay marriage advocates were thinking they were going to have to do, is push this through as a national, kind of referendum through, adding an amendment to the United States Constitution. And their argument is, if the states can add it to their Constitution, then the United States government can to theirs. And keep in mind the way the Constitution works, because of federalism, if it says it in the national Constitution that gay marriage is legal, then it is the law of the land. It doesn't matter what the states say because the Constitution reigns supreme. So if they were to pass the 28th Amendment allowing gay marriage, then it doesn't matter if the state of Ohio has it in our state constitution. It would then be X'd out of the state constitution. What they didn't realize is that they could actually go through the courts and be successful because they didn't really think it was going to happen. What I want to point out, though, is that gay marriage was not the actual issue per se when this court case came along. Now, the court case in question is a court case, I'm going to skip ahead here, to that is called Obergefell v. Hodges. And the petitioner was a guy named James Obergefell, who is from Ohio. This is a Cincinnati court case. James Obergefell is a gay man who was dating another man, and this man that he was dating fell ill with ALS. Which is commonly referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. Okay, it's a disease that basically robs you of your muscle capabilities, and it's a really horrible way to go. It's a horrible disease. It really causes the body to just shut down over time. Well, Obergefell and his partner didn't necessarily want to get married, but Obergefell realized that his significant other wanted Obergefell to be married to him because when someone dies, there is a death certificate and the next of kin is listed. So your closest living relative. Well, he wanted Obergefell to be listed as the next of kin. Why? There are certain legal documentation that is looked at for family genealogy, for family history. One of them is your birth certificate. One of them is a marriage license if you get married. And another one is your death certificate. So that's where a lot of, if you ever go on Ancestry.com or any of these websites, that's where they're getting their information, is who's related to who is through these documents, who is listed as the father, who's listed as the mother, who's listed as next of kin. So Obergefell and his partner flew to Maryland at the time. Maryland actually had passed by that point a gay marriage statute in their state. They basically took a medical flight, which was very expensive, but they flew out, landed in Maryland, never got off the plane. There was an officiant who came out to the plane, got on the plane, performed the marriage ceremony, and they got married in Maryland. They got the little certificate, and then they flew back to Ohio. And a few weeks later, Obergefell's husband passed away. Now, Obergefell was not saying, I want my marriage to be recognized by the state of Ohio. What he did want is to be recognized as the next of kin on the death certificate. That's what he wanted, okay? Because that was the dying wish of his husband, okay? Because, and the argument at this point was, hey, I got certified as married to this person in one state, just like I get a driver's license in one state and I can still drive in another state when I go there. They were kind of making the argument that, hey, I would be listed in Maryland as next of kin. I want to be listed as next of kin here. Now, Hodges was the director of the Ohio Department of Health, who always will have his name associated with this, even though Hodges didn't disagree with him. This is the sad thing of a Supreme Court case every once in a while. Hodges, when he was interviewed about this, really hated the fact that he had to deny the claim, because his job didn't allow for gay marriage to be recognized. Therefore, he couldn't put Obergefell on the death certificate. Obergefell sued for that right. Now, he won in a local federal court case. Now, when that happens, it then gets appealed, because if Obergefell wins, technically gay marriage is at least identified or honored within the state of Ohio. That doesn't mean that it happens, but it's honored in the state of Ohio. So that means if somebody went to Maryland, got married, and came back, we would have to at least admit that it is a marriage. And what are they really looking for? The rights of married people. Okay. Now, this is then combined as it goes up through the judicial system, along with a number of cases from District 6, which, if you remember, we talked about federal courts having different districts. In District 6, we are with Michigan, Kentucky, Indiana, and I think Wisconsin is the other one, but I don't quote me. So it was combined with this court case out of Kentucky, where four different same-sex couples had gone to other states, whether it be Iowa, Massachusetts, and Maryland, to marry their spouses and return to their home state. The state refused to recognize their unions, and the couples sued under the 14th Amendment. Okay, their claim was based upon the rights of inheritance and property ownership, because basically, in my marriage, when I got married to my wife, if I buy a house and I die, nobody questions who still owns the house. My wife owns it because we're married. It automatically passes. I don't need a will to say that everything I own goes to her. She's my next of kin. That's just how it works. A gay couple didn't have that same right. So if I was gay and I married my partner in Maryland, I still was not identified in Kentucky as married to that person. So if I died, it goes to my next of kin. If I don't have a will that specifically says where things go, well, my next of kin is not my husband. It would be my parents. Well, what happens if my parents disagree with my lifestyle, don't like the fact that, maybe don't like my partner? They could actually evict my partner from the house that we've built together. They could evict him from that and just own the house. So that's kind of what they were suing is, hey, we don't have the same rights as a married couple to home ownership. So that was what the Kentucky case was all about. In DeBoer versus Snyder, April DeBoer and her partner were suing the governor of Michigan, Richard Snyder, who again was not opposed to gay marriage. He just will always have his name associated with this. In this, DeBoer and her partner attempted to adopt children and were denied joint custody. This is a problem because what happens if DeBoer is the technical, parent of this child, according to the state of Michigan, and DeBoer dies? What happens to that child? They go back into the system. They don't go to DeBoer's significant other. So again, they're suing that, hey, my right as a parent is being infringed upon. And you'll notice they're also suing under the 14th Amendment, that this right of a parent has been violated. And then it is coupled up with Haslam. Tennessee is the other state in District 6. These were three separate couples who had gone to other states to obtain a legal marriage and returned to Tennessee with their belief that their state-sanctioned marriage would supersede a state law defining marriage. When their state refused to recognize the licenses, the couples sued the governor. Now, this was the Tanco case was literally the only one out of these cases that was saying, hey, we're married, you have to honor the marriage. Everybody else was looking for the rights of married people. There's a distinction there. The weird thing is when all of these are combined up into one court case, when all of these are combined together, because they're seeking basically the same thing, and they were all suing based upon the 14th Amendment, which was rights of a citizen, okay, that all citizens have equal protection under the law, and they were saying they were being denied equal protection because of their status as a gay person. They basically combined all of these, and the Supreme Court, out of all the combined cases, chose Obergefell to go into, probably because it was the least complex and probably because it was the least controversial. It literally was a case of, does a gay marriage exist when it comes to paperwork within the state? They weren't suing for their marriage. They were suing for the ability to put their name on paperwork, if you remember. So, of course, this is argued in 2015. And what is the result of the case? If you go to Oyez, which, Oyez is a great website. We've kind of referenced it all the way through this unit to look at cases. It gives you the overview of the case. It tells you Obergefell's the petitioner, that the respondent is Richard Hodges, okay? And it then goes through the facts of the case, okay, and all the different things that I just went through. The question before the court: does the 14th Amendment require a state to license a marriage between two people of the same sex? Do they have to do it? Okay. And the second question: does the 14th Amendment require a state to recognize a marriage between two people of the same sex that was legally licensed and performed in another state? So like I said before, if I get my driver's license in Ohio, I don't have to retake the test if I fly out to California in order to operate a car. They're going to assume that my license means I can drive in any state, regardless of what the state laws are. Now, I have to assume at that point the laws of that state. I have to follow the laws of that state, even if I didn't know. If for example, a few years ago, I went out to Illinois and I made an illegal right turn that I was not even aware was an illegal turn. And when I said, hey, I wasn't aware of that, there was no sign. They're like, yeah, but in the state of Illinois, that turn is always a stop here on red. I was like, man, you guys got to put up some signs, so again, but I was still responsible for that, as a license holder, if you will, even though it's not the state I drive in. Well, these people are saying, look, I got a license to be married, shouldn't that be honored in other states under the 14th Amendment? So all of these are basically seeking out the same thing, the rights of a married couple. And we're talking about property ownership. We're talking about parental rights. We're talking about the ability to be identified as next of kin. We're also talking about things like, if my wife, if I get into a bad accident, my wife can come visit me at the hospital. Prior to this, if I were gay, my partner would not have been able to because they are not next of kin. They're not family. So this was a problem across the board when it came to the rights of a gay couple. So it then goes to the Supreme Court, and in a 5-4 decision, they decide for Obergefell. Now, the main thing about this is that the liberal justices, Ginsburg, Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan, if you remember, Ginsburg and Breyer, both Clinton appointees, Sotomayor and Kagan, both Obama appointees. So it was not a surprise that the 4 liberal justices sided with the gay man. What was a surprise is Kennedy, who was a swing vote, but typically is considered more conservative, not only sided with the 4 liberals, he wrote the opinion. And yes, Justice Anthony M. Kennedy delivered the opinion for the 5-4 majority. Now, why is it so important? He didn't just say Obergefell has the right to put his name on the death certificate. He didn't just say the parental rights extend to gay people. He basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, love is love and marriage is marriage. It doesn't matter. So by doing that, he makes gay marriage legal across the board. Okay. That means that all those states from earlier that I was talking about, all these states that said no, all these red states here, now with that one decision, where is gay marriage legal? Everywhere. It doesn't matter what your state thinks about it. So for the last 6 years almost now, gay marriage has been legal across the United States, and it doesn't matter what your state says. Now, does your state have to sanction the performance of a gay marriage ceremony? No, they don't have to. Meaning, if I'm a gay couple, and look, when I got married to my wife, I went to my church and I said, hey, I want to get married in this church. I had to meet with my minister. My wife and I had to meet with the minister before he agreed to perform the service. The minister would have the right to look at me and say, I don't feel comfortable performing this marriage ceremony if he didn't feel like we were either ready to get married or not taking it serious or whatever else. They have the right to deny me that service, if you will, if they don't feel comfortable. Same thing holds true with gay marriage too. A church does not have to perform a gay marriage ceremony. A few years ago, a cake shop was sued because they refused to make a wedding cake for a gay marriage ceremony. They were told by the Supreme Court they didn't have to do it, that they could deny the service out of their religious beliefs. So this is not like gay marriage became totally legal across the board and all services and all facets of the United States had to serve gay people no matter what. What they were saying, though, is that the government could not deny the rights of people to get married and have that recognized on government paperwork, if you will. Okay. So again, it's not a complete and total victory across the board, but it is a victory nonetheless. And that's kind of the whole purpose of, the Supreme Court decision making here. Now, I want to kind of switch gears very quickly.
Hey, Mr. Veek.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you put the OIA website up real fast? Okay, good. Stay on the judges here. You guys, I want to point out to you that, last week you talked about should judges have lifetime appointments. I want to point out that if you go from left to right here, that Scalia is deceased. He's not on the court anymore. Kennedy has retired. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed away. And those were replaced with conservative judges. So probably if this case were to come before the court today, I don't know. What do you think, Mr. V? Do you think that it would have been ruled in favor of Obergefell?
So see, this is a great question. If this was an original case, and that's the distinction, if this was originally brought to the current court with 3 justices being a little bit more conservative Trump appointees, if this was the first time they were ever hearing the court case, I think they find against Obergefell. But now, because this court has already decided Obergefell, Even Roberts, you'll notice Roberts was dissenting. He said no to this back in 2015. Roberts has been quoted numerous occasions saying that this is no longer a court case, new law. This is precedent. So even though he was against this, if they were to rejudicate it, if they were to bring it up and say, hey, we think this is a violation of law to make states do gay marriage ceremonies, Roberts would probably be on the other side. And the newest appointee, Amy Coney Barrett, the female appointee of Trump, has been also quoted as saying that that's decided law. So these people are all on the same page of like, hey, this has already been decided. We don't need to redo this, which is kind of interesting because many of the conservatives who were very excited about putting 3 conservative voices on the Supreme Court think the court's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Well, the 3 new justices have all said, well, that's already been determined and decided. I don't know why we need to redo it. Now, they may tweak it a little bit, but it's not outside the realm of possibility that they could strike down abortion in the United States. That definitely could happen depending upon how the court case that comes before them comes out. But is this something that they're just going to go out and do and seek out immediately? No. And if you look at the court docket this year, they've actually avoided a number of the abortion cases that are available to them. Because if you remember, we kind of talked about how these court cases kind of go up the ladder, kind of waiting to be heard by the Supreme Court. Some sit there forever and the Supreme Court never selects them to be one of the cases they hear. But sometimes they look at court cases and say, no, we're not going to do that this year. And a lot of the abortion cases that are sitting on the docket right now, including the Ohio heartbeat law, they're not listening to, they're not bothering. They're kind of letting it go for a little while to see if the states can figure it out. And the thing is as long as it's on appeal, it can't come into effect. So it's a good question. Could the court actually reverse it? Sure. But do they want to? It sounds like Roberts and Coney Barrett don't want the court to be very political here. So not sure if that answers your question entirely there, Ficker.
It did. Excellent job. Excellent job.
I do what I can. All right. I very quickly need to go over this, and I know I'm going to run short of time here shortly, but you will notice the presidential campaign project, which is the last grade of the third quarter. Okay. You only have one assignment really this week, and it's to fill out this Google form right here. I'm going to get to that here in a second, but the presidential campaign, this Google, the Google site, if you will. And let me get to it. Oop. I don't know why they make this so difficult to click on. Come on. All right, the political campaign project. I made a Google site that explains the whole thing, if you will. Okay, the overall project here, and it is a group project on its surface, but in reality, it's individual. Okay. This used to be an in-class group project. Ficker and I have been assigning this for years. Now we're kind of amending it to a remote learning project. Here's the overview. You will rank your top 3 jobs that you would be willing to do on a campaign. You will then select your top 3 candidates or more. You can select as many as you want that you find interesting. You will be placed by me into a group for the project. Now, the group doesn't have to meet. And you're not depending upon anybody else to do the job. The job you choose is the only thing you have to worry about. So for those of you that always worry about like, oh, what happens if I get paired with people that are lazy? That is irrelevant. If you do your job, you get the grade. So again, this will make more sense as I go through it. Groups may choose to meet via Zoom. If you do meet with your actual group, and can kind of chart it and let me know who was there and what you talked about, you do get extra credit on the assignment for actually completing it. Okay. The grade for the project is individually assigned again. So no overall group grade is a requirement. So if your group chooses not to meet for the extra credit component, that's totally fine. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now you're going to select one of the jobs, and you will notice on here, there are 7 different jobs to choose from. Okay. There's a campaign pamphlet where you make a campaign something that you would hand out to supporters of this campaign, maybe at a campaign event or whatever else. So you're going to make a trifold, and it's a handout that would be given to people who are potential supporters. You would introduce the candidate. You would give the background, what their family life is like and where they went to school and things like that, kind of a general bio of who they are. You're going to talk about their governmental service. Did they serve as a governor? Were they a congressman, senator? What did they do prior to running for the presidency? Their plan for when they are president, overall, and it could be a general plan. You could run like an Obamacare type thing that, hey, if elected, here's what we're going to do to healthcare, or Donald Trump build the wall, or whatever else. Their major issues and stances, you're going to look through some of the issues that are out there and select 3 things that they believe and that they're going to try and kind of push for as president. And then their overall vision for America. Why should we elect them to the presidency? So you're kind of doing the thing that is handed out. Now, you can do this by hand. You can do this on the computer, but it needs to be your work. Okay. This needs to be something that you put together, and it should be visual. Like the Kennedy one here, it has pictures of him with people that are important. It's got him. And obviously this was something that was handed out to minorities back then, because he's pictured with minorities all throughout this pamphlet. Okay. So again, it's obviously a more, direct, excuse me, appeal to certain voters. Now you can also do debate prep. Debate prep, you're getting your candidate ready for a debate by kind of giving them little answers for 15 different issues. Basically, if you choose this, I'm going to email you a list of questions that you would need to answer as if you are the presidential candidate you choose. So you got to look up information about the candidate, know kind of what their opinion would be. A lot of times this has to do with what political party they are and what the political party tends to think about these things. But these are the 15 issues that those questions would come out. And you would do the research and write 3 to 5 sentence answers for each one of the questions. So if you're more of a politically minded person that understands kind of what Democrats and Republicans believe, and you feel like you could come up with pretty decent answers for your candidate, then you may want to choose that. If you're an artist and you're interested in fashion, you're literally going to be dressing the candidate. You're going to be sketching out, and it needs to be your artwork. You're going to sketch out outfits that they would wear to these different events, these 4 events: a formal dinner or fundraiser, a debate against their opponent, a casual golf outing or a picnic or some sort of event that they're going to. They're going to a fish fry in Cincinnati, or they're going shopping, on Fifth Avenue to prove that they can be kind of, a tourist as well, or whatever else. A campaign event for supporters, an outside event of some sort where they're kind of getting up in front of a group of supporters and talking. You can kind of choose whichever 4 events you want to send your candidate to, but what are they wearing? And you're going to have to sketch it out. This cannot be pictures that you find on the internet. This has to be you sketching it out. And I would like it in color as well, because color schemes matter. How are they dressing? Okay. And you would need to write a little short reasoning as to why you chose the outfits you did. If you're a little bit more mathematical in your thinking, you can do the Pathway to Victory, the Electoral College map. So if you like to crunch numbers and solve problems, this may be for you. You're going to use 270 to Win, the website that we used when we were talking about the Electoral College, to help you with this. You're going to tell me what states you will automatically win based upon your political affiliation. You're going to talk about the states that you need to win as a Democrat or a Republican. You're going to talk about the swing states in the election, like which are the ones that are going to be battleground that you kind of need to go toe to toe, and it's going to be close, but hopefully you win them. And then you're going to talk about the states that you will not win. What are the states that are just out of play? So, if you're a Republican, are you really going to win California? If you're a Democrat, are you really going to win the Dakotas? There are just certain states that are just outside of your realm of winning, just based upon the fact that one political party controls such a large share of each one of those states. Now, if you're confused by the Electoral College, you may not want to do this one. Okay. Now, other things that you can do, there's campaign swag. This is another artistic one that you make it by hand. You're going to make a yard sign for your candidate. You're going to have a bumper sticker or a button. You're going to have a t-shirt that you make and an accessory of some sort. You can make a hat, a headband, a hair tie, wristband. Now, you don't actually have to physically make these things. You don't actually have to have a t-shirt. You can sketch out a t-shirt and kind of show what the design would look like. You can sketch out a bumper sticker. It doesn't actually have to be a sticker. It can just be a piece of paper that you kind of design. You can do this on the computer with graphics if you're good with that kind of stuff. But again, it needs to be your work. It cannot be something that you just found online, especially if the candidate you choose has run a political campaign before. So don't just reuse something that a campaign has already used. You can do a stump speech if you're more of a creative writer. A stump speech is a speech to political supporters that they would say at a rally. They would just get up and start talking, and it's kind of a canned speech that they give everywhere that they go. And it's really just a condensed version of their vision for America. It's a condensed version of their issues, their vision, some of maybe the plans of what they want to do, talk about their overall political beliefs, overall history, their governmental service. You're kind of just giving a synopsis of what they're going to do. And this is usually 1 to 2 pages in length, something that they would kind of give really quickly at a whistle stop, as it's known, where you're kind of just jumping up on the stump, talking to supporters, and then moving on. So again, you'd have to be a fairly decent writer to do that one. And the final one is website design. You're going to design the campaign website. It doesn't have to be a working website. It literally can just be a template where you're kind of showing me what it looks like. It can be a Google site like this, but you should have these 6 issues here, or I'm sorry, these 5 sections here, as well as a campaign store, which if you're working as a group, you can maybe get the swag from the swag person, take pictures of it and put it on there and act like you're selling the signs and act like you're selling the t-shirts and things like that, or you can just kind of put your own on there. If you're doing a campaign store, you can borrow things from the internet. You can actually use images from the internet and say, hey, we're selling this on our store. Again, it doesn't have to be a working website. It can be a template. It can be something you drew out or kind of just designed. You can even put it in to a Google slideshow and show me that those sections are done, in fact. Okay. But again, you would say this is what the website would look like if we were to have JoeBiden.com, or we were going to have KamalaHarris.com, or Mike Pence for Prez, whatever. So after looking through these different things and asking the questions, what I'm going to ask you to do, and this is the only assignment you have for the week, and I know I'm running short on time here, is the only assignment you have this week is to fill out this Google form. Okay. This Google form tells me, out of the jobs I just talked about, what are the 3 jobs you would be interested in doing? You're going to rank them 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And if I can fit you in, then I will with that job. And the job's the more important thing, what you're comfortable doing. And then you're going to tell me which candidates you would feel comfortable working for. And these all came out of the list I gave you for the Electoral College assignment many moons ago. So that list is still up there. And I alternated, if you notice, Biden's a Democrat, Trump's a Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, all the way down the list. You're just kind of looking into the candidates that you find interesting, people that you wouldn't mind working with. You will also notice that this Google Sheet is on the website, on Google Classroom. This is where I would fill in whatever job you're going to do with whatever campaign. It doesn't matter what section you're in. It doesn't matter if you're my 3rd, 4th, 5th. It doesn't matter if you're in Ficker's 3rd, 4th, or 6th. Once a job is taken for a specific candidate, so let's say you're wanting to do the campaign swag and you want to work for Trump. Once you're in that is you. You're the only one that's going to do that job for that specific candidate. So be kind of thoughtful about what you want to do and who you want to work with. And look, if you've got friends and you say, you know what, I got friends in Ficker's class, I got friends in V's class, you can all work together because they're all going to have the same assignment. Okay. So if you say, look, we all want to work together and be Bernie bros and take all the jobs within the Bernie Sanders campaign, well, that's fine, but you would need to fill out the Google form pretty soon to make sure that you can secure that spot. Okay. Or if you want to take one of the lesser known candidates, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and you say, hey, we all want to work together on one of these campaigns and we want to make sure that all of us work together. You can also just email me and say, here are the 5 people that want to work together. Here are the jobs that we think we would want to do. And we all want to work to elect Charlie Baker, or Elizabeth Warren or Nikki Haley. And if that's possible for me to fit all of you in there, 4, 5, 6 people, then I will, and you can just work together. Okay. Especially if you're in a cohort and you're all together in a room and like, hey, we see each other 4 days a week. Let's kind of work together on this assignment since we all have the same thing. That would work too. Okay. I kept you long enough. That's all I have. There is an extra credit assignment out there that Miss J has posted. Miss J and I will stay on the call here. So if you have any questions about any of the stuff that we've talked about, or the extra credit assignment specifically, you can stay on and we'll talk. Otherwise, I got to get you off to your 4th bell. So again, if you have questions, please stay back. If you don't, have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Ficker, Jay, do you have anything to add real quick, or?
No, fun.
Looking forward to seeing the results of the campaigns. That's always fun.
And these jobs will be the next week. Like next week will be when you actually do the job. So this is a great week to get caught up for those of you that have a 30, 40, or 50% in this class. For those of you that still have to do all the judicial branch or some of the executive branch materials, they're still up and on the classroom. But Ficker and I will eliminate them here in about a week or so. So you need to get on it. Let's get these assignments done as soon as possible, folks. And this week is a great week to do it, considering this is all you have to do is fill out that Google form this week and do a weekly review, which the weekly review should be very easy this week. You either understand what we're doing in the project or you don't. So make sure you're kind of understanding what the expectations are this week. It's a quick and easy couple of points. But other than that, have a great day. Hang back if you have questions. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you down the road, folks. Colby's a rock star, man. He just continually stays on and does
He
extra
is.
all the time.
He